Today I want to take you to one of the most difficult meetings I had in my career. One that I'll never forget because it took all the courage, confidence, and experience that I had to own that room and to get a good outcome. And I want to share that with you because I know it will help you in your career. It will help you own the room. It will help you be remembered. It will help your influence. And I'll break it down to 6 keys that really make a difference, and we're inside that room. So now back to my meeting. At the time I was the CEO of our firm, and we had a very large audit client, one of the largest in the firm. And the CFO there was a very dominant personality, and really the only term that I can honestly use is bully. And over the years, he had always bullied our lead partner, he'd bullied the staff. It was a very adversarial type of engagement. In fact, nobody wanted to work on the engagement. And this year, when we had to have an increase in our fees, he had just been very belligerent with the lead partner, and things were not going well at all. So we set up a meeting for me and the lead partner and him. And as we set up in the room, I knew he would probably make us wait, and he did. And so we got on opposite ends, separate sides of the table. I stood close to the door so I could greet him when he came in the room. And when he came in, I immediately stood up and stepped toward him, shoulders back, very strong posture, looked him in the eyes, smiled a real smile and a nice firm handshake, and introduced myself and called him by his name. As we went through those formalities and I waited for him to sit down. As he sat down, I then sat down and began the conversation with a question completely off base. I asked him about his college football team. And immediately I saw some tension leave his shoulders because he had come through that door with a lot of negative energy. And as he talked about his team and kind of got carried away with that, he then got back around to why we were meeting that day. And I continued to sit there and lean forward, make eye contact with him. I nodded as he went through his complaints and the things that troubled him about the fees that we were charging. And I asked a clarifying question from time to time, 2 or 3 of those, and he continued to go through everything that he had in his notes. And when he had finished, I just paused. I let there be a moment of silence. I was very thoughtfully thinking about all the points he had made, and then I said very calmly and strongly, but very slowly, I said, well, from all of that, it appears that you don't see the value of what we're doing for your company. You don't think it's worth the investment. And it's very obvious that our firm is not a good fit for your company. And as a result of that, and since we technically work for the board of directors, I'll need to contact the chairman of the board and see how he wants to work through a transition plan. And then I paused again and let it sit. Now, the end of this story is that we did that work, we did it for higher fees, and we had better working conditions. But it was not because I presented some arguments or rationalizations or justifications that changed his mind. It was all about the first 5 minutes of that meeting. It was about owning the room and being remembered, gaining his respect. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to be able to own the room, to be remembered, and to have influence. And that's why these 6 keys is very important. And I'm going to break each one of them down because they'll be a little unique for you. And I also want to let you know that I shot a video a few weeks ago about winning difficult meetings. And in that video, I talk about the 5 things you need to do before you go in that room, before the door closes. Because this is what happens after the door closes. So you might even want to watch that video first. But for those of you that want to stay, let's talk about those 6 keys. So key number 1 is that as soon as that door closes, your body is already speaking. Your body is already giving off signals. And how you walk through that room and through those doors tells a story. Now, I've seen so many individuals, so many leaders walk into that room with their shoulders down, their eyes cast down to the floor like they're looking at their shoes, just making themselves as little as possible, finding a seat on the far end of the table and leaning way back in their seat and making themselves as small as they could be in that seat. Not shaking, but their body said, I don't know if I belong here. That's why your posture when you walk into that room is so important. You want your shoulders back. You want your head on a swivel, and you want to make eye contact with those in the room. You do belong. And as you walk in, what is your energy level? The energy is really important, and you can project a positive energy as you walk into that room. We can feel it. We can't touch it, but we can feel that energy, and it will be contagious. And if you have the positive energy, people are going to gravitate to you. And as you take your seat, you want to lean in. You don't want to sit back. Lean in. You want to spread out just a little bit. Take up your personal space. If it's a small group, I always try to speak and shake hands with everybody there before I sit. Key number 2 is to connect. And just like in the small group where I mentioned, one of the things we want to do is we want to handshake with everybody. And a nice firm handshake, not a dominant handshake like this or a submissive handshake like that. Just a neutral, firm handshake. And if you're comfortable with it and it's natural to you, you can reach out and touch their arm as you shake hands, because it kind of draws and connects people to you. You know who was a master at this? Watch President Bill Clinton. Look back at some of the past big meetings that he held where he was meeting dignitaries and other people. Generally, always, he would reach out with that left hand and touch that person's arm. He was a master of this. As people come into the room and you're already seated, you want to stand. You want to recognize them, show them respect, even initiate the welcome to them. And when you're meeting somebody, you want to use their name. Neuroscience shows that when we use people's name, it really gravitates them, pulls them to us. It makes us more trustworthy. If you're in a one-on-one meeting, the rule of thumb is use that name 3 times in the greeting, sometime during the meeting, and then when the meeting is over, you want to use their personal name again. The other way to connect is just like I did in that tough meeting with the bully, is that I quickly introduced something that was off subject just because we wanted to warm the room up a little bit. It's okay to have a little chatter, a little human talk before you get down to business, and college football was exactly what worked there. Now, there will be meetings where the agenda or the meeting is too structured, too important to do much small chat. You might have to do that one-on-one with somebody, but not with everybody. And another exception is if you're in a meeting that involves a dismissal of a team member, you want to get straight to the topic. Now, let's talk about key number 3. Key 3 is all about being interested in the people in the room, not focused on yourself. Be interested, but not interesting. You're not driving the show. You want to make other people feel important. Harvard Business Review did a study on this and issued a report that people that do that show genuine interest in others are more likable, they're more credible, and they're more competent. And that's exactly how you leave a meeting like this being remembered. Ask good follow-up questions. That's one of the things I did in the meeting with the CFO. I asked questions. I wasn't defensive. I didn't start leaning back. I didn't start taking up. I didn't start justifying. I just listened and asked clarifying questions. Curiosity is your friend. People want to be seen and they want to be accepted. Now, key number 4, one that I was known for, is the pregnant pause. See, it brings attention to your next words. Most people are afraid of silence. They begin chatter, trying to fill up the void. They'll say anything not to have that silence. But that pregnant pause is powerful. Just like after I made the statement about what I'd heard him say and what our position was, I paused and I let it sink in. I let it carry weight. And what that pause does, it says that you're confident, that you're thoughtful. And in that situation where I let it sink in after stating a very big position, it says he's not bluffing. He's serious about this. Always remember that silence is not a bad thing. If you use it correctly and you practice it, it'll project you as being confident and thoughtful. I was coaching a young CEO who was taking over in some of the most important meetings. The more important the topic was, the more adversarial it was. The faster she would talk so fast that nobody could really follow her. nobody really interjected anything because she went through things so quickly. So we began to work on that, practice that, and she got better and better, and her influence grew, and her ability to get more opinions on the table happened, and her words carried more weight. So the pregnant pause is very powerful, and you need to practice it. Now, key number 5 is listen with your entire body in these meetings. Good listeners generate influence and they become trustworthy. It also creates a sense of belonging for people. And it's not a passive activity. You're going to lean in, you're going to use good eye contact, you're going to nod. There's nothing passive about it. You're going to follow up with those questions to show that you're listening. You're certainly not going to pick up your phone and glance at it or have it on the table and you're glancing at it. Really important meetings, I didn't even take my phone in. You certainly want it out of sight. You don't want to be looking out the window and thinking about, man, how beautiful that tree is. Wow, the wind's blowing hard. Oh, we got a storm coming. No, because when I'm looking out the window, you're immediately thinking Joey's distracted. And I had a mentor that taught me a great follow-up question, especially when someone is stating what you know is their opinion. It might even be based on what you believe are some false assumptions. Rather than being adversarial, dig a little deeper. Use your curiosity to say, well, help me understand. Help me understand why you think that. You see what I'm saying? Why do you think that pregnant pause is so powerful? I know it's powerful because I've used it for over 40 years to help build influence and also to be more respectful of others and to be thoughtful in my responses and to let my words carry more weight. And that's what you want to do. And so listen with your entire body. And when we listen, it helps us have an open mindset. Remember what we've learned in the past, especially with the CEO mindset, I might not be right. So we want to gather as much information as possible, and you learn more when you have an open mindset. Now, key number 6 is never leave that meeting without saying anything. Never, rarely do I want you to leave those meetings and have not spoken. Now, I'm not talking about just speaking up to fill space and rattling on and repeating what others said. I had a client that hired a COO, and for the first 6 months, all he did in the big meetings and the team meetings was repeat what somebody else said, agree where the consensus was. He never took a stand about anything, never voiced a contrary opinion about anything. He became invisible, and a year later, he was gone. So you have to find your moment in these meetings. You want it to mean something, and you want to speak with clarity. And I've been in meetings where I simply agreed exactly where the meeting went. I really had nothing big to add, but on the bigger points where I agreed with what somebody had said or the course of action we were going to take, I made sure to share why I thought that was the right course of action. Why is that the right thing to do? Give them something to remember you. That's our goal today, remember? Influence. Find your moment. Now, in summary, I want you to use these 6 keys to own the room, to be memorable, to build influence. Your body, your posture, the energy that you enter the room. You want to connect with people, that firm handshake. You want to use that name. You want your curiosity to lead your conversation. You want to practice the pregnant pause. You want to be an active listener. You want to listen with your entire body. You want to speak up in your key moments. Just like in the CFO meeting, we didn't get a good outcome because we argued points, because we rationalized or justified. We won that position because we gained respect in the first 5 minutes of that meeting. We used these 6 keys to be successful. You are not just a participant. You belong in the meeting. You are unique and you bring value to the meeting. I promise you, if you'll practice these 6 keys, you will win the room. You will be rememberable. You will have more influence, and it's worth it. I promise you it's worth it. It'll increase your leadership. It'll help your career. You'll get better outcomes. And always remember our rally cry, let's work every day to be better.